Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Reports of Emma Watson's involvement remain unconfirmed, but what we do know is that Diddy is in the fight of his life. The headlines are all about a $50 million bail offer. Yes, $50 million, just to keep him out of a jail cell. He's thrown his $48 million Star Island mansion on the table as collateral, and even his mother's home is up for grabs to cover the rest. Diddy's legal team isn't just pleading, they're scrambling, trying every trick in the book to convince the court he deserves freedom. With this much money and desperation on display, the courtroom tension is off the charts. And as the judge weighs the risks, everyone's waiting to see if Diddy's fortune is enough to buy him a shot at freedom, or if this is just the beginning of his public unraveling. Instead, let's get into the heart of Diddy's gamble, the $50 million bail offer that's got everyone in the legal world talking. This isn't some routine celebrity arrest where a star flashes a few million and walks out the front door. Diddy's situation is so dire, his team put together a bail package that reads like a billionaire's last stand. They didn't just wave around a fat check. They stacked the deck with his $48 million Star Island mansion as collateral, plus the equity in his mother's Florida home to cover the rest. It's the kind of move that screams desperation, not confidence. This wasn't just about showing off his assets. Diddy's legal team was scrambling to convince the judge that he's no flight risk. They threw in every safeguard they could think of. Strict travel restrictions, limiting him to Miami, New York City, and New Jersey, and only for court, legal meetings, or medical appointments. They even promised to sell his private jet and stick him with a GPS ankle monitor, like he's about to star in his own episode of Celebrity House Arrest. The letter to the court painted Diddy as cooperative, trustworthy, and determined to face the music, highlighting how he'd flown to New York to turn himself in and handed over his passport without a fight. But prosecutors saw right through it. They called the whole thing a distraction, a shiny, over-the-top offer meant to draw attention away from the actual charges. And these aren't minor accusations. We're talking sex trafficking, racketeering, and transporting people for prostitution. Prosecutors hammered the point that no amount of luxury real estate or fancy legal maneuvering can erase the seriousness of the crimes. It didn't matter if Diddy was willing to put his entire empire on the line. The prosecution made it clear they weren't impressed. Inside the courtroom, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Diddy's lawyers argued that this was an airtight deal. So much money and so many restrictions, it would be impossible for him to run. They painted a picture of a man with everything to lose, begging for a shot at freedom. But the judge wasn't buying the drama. Legal experts will tell you bail deals this massive are almost unheard of, even for celebrities. The risk is staggering. If Diddy slipped up, he'd lose not just his mansion, but his reputation. The ultimate public humiliation. And then came the judge's answer. No dice. The $50 million bail offer was rejected, and Diddy was left to stew in a cell. The court's message was brutal. Your money and your mansions aren't enough. The charges are too serious, and the risk is too high. It's a rare moment when a celebrity's wealth actually works against them, turning their assets into a symbol of just how far they're willing to go to avoid facing consequences. But Diddy's legal team isn't backing down. If anything, the bail rejection just turned up the volume. They're already shifting gears, ready to launch their next move. A full frontal attack on the prosecution itself, arguing that the entire case is built on injustice. The courtroom battle is about to get even uglier, and Diddy's lawyers are preparing to flip the script. Diddy's legal team has gone on the offensive, making sure everyone knows exactly what their strategy is. Frame the entire case as an unjust prosecution. This isn't about quietly poking holes in the evidence. It's about flipping the spotlight, turning Diddy from accused mogul into the supposed victim of a system gone rogue. Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's high-powered attorney, isn't just defending his client. He's rewriting the narrative. Every statement, every court filing is designed to hammer home the idea that Diddy isn't just fighting for his freedom, he's fighting for justice against a government that's out of control. The charges, sex trafficking, racketeering, transporting people for prostitution, are the kind that stick to your name forever. But Agnifilos's defense doesn't waste time on the details of each accusation. Instead, he paints the whole case as a reckless attempt to drag down a cultural icon. The courtroom turns into a stage for a new story. Diddy as a music legend, entrepreneur, family man, and philanthropist who's being targeted not because he's guilty, but because he's famous. He is an imperfect person, but is not criminal. Agnifilos's words ring out like a carefully rehearsed line, designed to land in headlines and stick in the minds of anyone watching. And this isn't just for the judge or the jury. It's for the cameras, the blogs, the Twitter feeds. Diddy's team is humanizing him at every turn, listing his decades of philanthropy, his devotion to his kids, his supposed dedication to uplifting the Black community. The message is clear. Forget the charges, look at the man. The defense wants the world to see Diddy as a victim, not a villain. It's a calculated move, one ripped straight from the celebrity legal playbook. Paint your client as the target of a witch hunt and hope that public sympathy drowns out the actual facts. Of course, they're not stopping at character references. Diddy's cooperation with authorities is being paraded as proof he's not trying to run or hide. He handed over his passport. He flew to New York to face the charges. His lawyers submitted a letter spelling out his willingness to comply, practically daring the prosecution to claim he's a flight risk. Every step, every gesture is folded back into the story of a man who just wants his day in court. But there's a problem with this picture. No matter how many times Agnifilo calls Diddy a philanthropist or insists he's not a criminal, the accusations are still there. Ugly, detailed, and impossible to ignore. You can only stretch the unjust prosecution angle so far before it starts to feel like a distraction. The contrast between Diddy's carefully curated public persona and the reality of the charges is impossible to miss. It's like trying to plaster a motivational poster over a crime scene and hoping nobody looks too closely. Still, every move is deliberate. The defense knows that in cases like this, public perception isn't just important, it's everything. They're not just fighting in court, they're fighting in the headlines, the comment sections, and every group chat that's buzzing about the case. The stakes are sky high, and Diddy's team is betting that if they can win over the public, they might just tip the scales in the courtroom too. But here's the question nobody can answer yet. Does any of this actually work? Can a slick narrative, a sympathetic backstory, and a few grand gestures really outweigh the mountain of allegations? Or is the whole thing just a desperate attempt to keep the spotlight off the facts? The answer might not come from the judge's gavel, but from the world watching and judging every step of the way. When a celebrity scandal explodes, it doesn't just hijack the headlines, it hijacks the entire culture. Diddy's trial isn't playing out in the shadows or behind closed doors. It's front and center, a spectacle where every move is broadcast and dissected in real time. The court of public opinion is just as real as any judge, and right now, it's louder than ever. Instagram stories break updates before the courtroom doors even close. Anonymous sources and viral think pieces shape the narrative faster than any official statement. The result? Diddy's defense becomes a circus, with the media and millions of strangers doubling as the jury. This isn't about evidence anymore. The facts are buried under a landslide of hot takes, memes, and outrage. The public splits into two feverish camps. Those convinced Diddy is the poster child for everything wrong with the system, and those who see him as a scapegoat, a target for prosecutors desperate for a win. Every headline, every rumor, adds fuel to the fire. The back and forth isn't just background noise. It seeps into the atmosphere around the case, infecting everything from water cooler talk to the strategies inside the courtroom. It's impossible not to see the whole thing as a twisted reality show. Cameras don't just capture the trial, they manufacture drama. Diddy's life, reputation, and future are picked apart like plot points on a weekly episode. The audience isn't just watching, they're participating, voting with every comment and retweet. And as the stakes climb, the line between legal truth and public narrative blurs until nobody can tell which one matters more. For Diddy, the trial has mutated into a performance, and the audience is more powerful than anyone sitting in the jury box. Of course, this isn't new. The media's obsession with celebrity trials goes back decades, but the scale now is absurd. Social media has turned every user into a pundit, every post into potential evidence. Research shows that this wave of public opinion can actually sway outcomes, no matter how much we like to pretend the law is immune. Both sides know it too. Prosecutors and defense lawyers are locked in a PR war, spinning every detail for maximum impact. Diddy's team isn't just fighting for a verdict, they're fighting for the upper hand in the comments section, trying to recast their client as a misunderstood hero instead of a headline villain. Every calculated move is designed to bleed into the public's consciousness. Diddy's lawyers parade his philanthropic work, his status as a father, his supposed cooperation with authorities. They're not just talking to a judge, they're talking to the world. The real game is about shaping the narrative, building sympathy, and turning outrage into doubt. If public sentiment is the queen on this chessboard, then Diddy's defense is making sure she's front and center, dictating every move. But does any of it actually work? Can a slick PR campaign and a few well-timed interviews really outweigh the mountain of accusations? Or is this just a desperate attempt to drown out the facts and keep Diddy's brand alive no matter the cost? That's the gamble his team is taking, betting that if they can win the crowd, maybe, just maybe, they can tip the scales in court. What's clear is that this trial has gone way beyond the usual courtroom drama. It's become a cultural flashpoint, a battle not just for freedom, but for the legacy of one of music's biggest names. And as the story spirals, the stakes keep rising. The real story here is about what happens when celebrity, power, and the justice system collide. Diddy's trial isn't just a fight over guilt or innocence. It's a referendum on what the public expects from its icons and whether accountability still means anything when billions are at stake. His lawyers keep insisting he's eminently trustworthy, as if trust alone can erase the weight of sex trafficking and racketeering charges. So where does that leave us? Should Diddy's fame shield him? Or is it finally time for the law to catch up with the legend? The answers will shape not just his future, but how we judge every celebrity scandal that comes next.